Many individuals wear necklaces, charms, or rings featuring the symbol of the evil eye. This widespread practice is not limited to an individual, but is embraced by cultures around the world. Why is this? The belief in the evil eye is one of the most enduring myths in human history. For thousands of years, across cultures, people have held on to this notion that a single gaze charged with envy or malice could bring harm, misfortune, or even illness. But what if this isn't just superstition? What if this concept of the evil eye reflects something much deeper? A profound insight into the workings of the human psyche. At its core, the evil eye represents the power of malicious gaze to inflict harm, a belief held by countless cultures. From protective charms in the Mediterranean to prayers in the Middle East, the fear of the envious gaze has created rituals and symbols across the world. But according to Jungian psychology, this ancient myth points to something deeper, the mechanism of projection. Projection, as Carl Jung described, occurs when unconscious emotions or traits are displaced onto others. These projections are often involuntary, reflecting unintegrated parts of ourselves. In the context of the evil eye, this means that envy, resentment, or fear within us can be externalized as a perceived external threat. In her book, Projection and Recollection in Jungian Psychology, Mary Louise von Franz provides a striking example to illustrate the concept of projection. The story of a Nigerian soldier who believed that a tree was calling to him. The soldier deeply connected to his cultural and spiritual beliefs and was experiencing what he perceived to be a supernatural voice coming from a tree. He was convinced that the tree was calling out to individuals who shared its name, which led him to feel a pull to leave his assigned duties and go to the tree. To the external world, he was experiencing periods of psychosis. But in his mind, this external voice was entirely real, reflecting a deeper psychological truth. Von Franz explains that this phenomenon represents an example of archaic identity, where the boundary between self and object blurs. The soldier's experiences can be interpreted as a projection of unresolved inner conflicts, possibly involving feelings of guilt, duty, or unfulfilled spiritual yearnings. By attributing these emotions to an external source, the soldier externalized his unconscious materials and projected them onto the tree. Von Franz uses this story to highlight how such projections can feel profoundly real to the individuals experiencing them, and how they reflect a deeper psychological truth about the unresolved elements of the psyche. Jung's concept of the shadow sheds even more light onto this dynamic. The shadow contains the parts of ourselves we disown, traits we consider unacceptable or negative, and projection as a psychological mechanism often hooks onto these external features that resonate with the shadow. Consider another example von Franz gives, which is an ancient Chinese ghost story. The story goes as such. A mother is tormented by visions of a rope-carrying ghost, which repeatedly pressured her to end her life. The rope symbolizes the burden of unprocessed grief and guilt, traumas that haunt the mother and her family. Unable to confront these emotions directly, the ghost becomes a tangible representation of the mother's psychic distress. The story then continues that a soldier intervenes on behalf of the mother, offering a unique solution. He confronts the ghost and, in a symbolic act, cuts himself to spill his own blood. This act weakens the ghost's power, and the soldier integrates the rope into his arm. This isn't just a mythical tale or a folklore, or merely just an ancient Chinese story. It's a profound metaphor for integrating the shadow elements of oneself, which individuals in a particular society push aside into their unconscious. The soldier's willingness to sacrifice himself, even through blood, and confronting pain, transforms the destructive forces into something constructive, representing the psychological growth that comes from facing our inner demons. Myths like the evil eye don't just function on an individualistic level. They also serve a cultural purpose. Across civilizations, symbols like protective amulets and prayers act as a safeguard against the perceived threats of envy. But these rituals do more than protect us against external harm. They also address internal fears and anxieties that we hold. In Mesopotamian mythology, spirits of disease were often personified as arrows sent by gods or demons, a metaphor that captured the destructive potentials of envy and malice. These arrows represented the projection of the internal psychic conflicts that every individual has within a society: envy, guilt, or suppressed rage, and in Jungian terms, such characteristics which attribute to the shadow self. This is then projected onto tangible external forces. This act of externalization throughout history has allowed individuals and communities to contextualize and ritualize their fears, transform overwhelming emotions into manageable narratives. Similarly, the gaze of the evil eye represents a cultural symbol for destructive psychic energy, or a collective cultural shadow. The belief that the harm can be inflicted through envious glances reflects a deep-seated human anxiety about vulnerabilities and the transfer of psychic hostility from other individuals. Such myths not only highlight the universality of these anxieties, but also underscore a psychological mechanism at play, embedding personal and communal fears into enduring cultural narratives. While the evil eye might seem like an ancient relic, its modern parallels are everywhere. Take social media, for example. With its culture of comparison, this amplifies the anxieties linked to envy. The curated perfections of online personas often feels like a modern evil eye, a gaze that provokes insecurity, judgment, and fear. Understanding the psychology of the evil eye through a Jungian lens can help us navigate these challenges, recognizing that these fears often stem from internal projections, which empower us to address the emotions within ourselves, rather than attributing our insecurities to external forces. Now we ask the question, how do we break free from the cycle of projection and the lack of awareness of one's shadow? Jung and von Franz offers a pathway forward, which is through integration. To dissolve projections, we must confront the emotions and traits that we externalize, recognizing them as parts of our own psyche. Mary Louise von Franz provides numerous insights into archetypal stories that illustrate the process of integration. Von Franz often explores how unresolved emotions and collective guilt manifest in myths and folklore, requiring acknowledgement and integration to transform destructive energies into constructive outcomes. For example, she delves into tales of spirits or beings that embody suppressed grief or guilt, which communities must confront to restore harmony. In this sense, the evil eye isn't just a myth, and when you see individuals with necklaces and charms, it's an indication and a window into the human psyche, revealing the dynamics of projection, envy, and the shadow that are collectively understood by the human psyche. By understanding its deeper psychological meaning, we can turn this ancient symbol of fear into an opportunity for self-growth and individuation. As Carl Jung reminds us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos and who have subscribed to my channel. It really means a lot. And as always, take care everyone.